get started 7 p.m. for our special session. And so I'll call the meeting to order. And I just have to say hi to my former boss, Lana Mason is here. So she was my nurse manager at Providence Hospital years ago. So yeah, so we're real excited she's here. So we're going to first off open it up for announcement and citizens' comments. I have 2 citizens who've signed up. So this is an opportunity for members of the public to suggest the addition of topics for the discussion or to address topics of interest with presentation limited to 3 minutes. All speakers will conduct themselves in an orderly and lawful manner. All speakers will be recognized prior to speaking and will announce their name and address to be included in the minutes. State law prohibits the mayor and members of the city council from commenting on any statement or engaging in dialogue without an appropriate agenda item being posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. So I'm going to start by calling Donna Hartman.
He intentionally shut me off. Start the timer. Okay, Donna Hartman, 112 Great West Loop. I know y'all are talking about the proposed tax rate, just the proposed, not the tax rate, but I just wanted to throw something out. I'm not a big advocate of fees, and so I was kind of putting some numbers together, and I know the fees that we're going to present to our residents would be $60 a year. And I just wanted to throw it out with raising the tax rate a little bit more than what you have it set, even maybe right to the de minimis rate. Our minimum house is $280,000, and that's our average resident out here lives in houses like that. And so instead of $60, it would be $40 if the tax rate was raised. So that's a savings to them. The break-even point kind of comes at a home for $425,000, and that's when they would pay $61 a year as opposed to $60. So just right below $425,000, people would break even. And I just think it's a little disappropriate when you have smaller homes. Usually they have smaller lots. Some of them don't have a lot of trees. You know, when we're talking about brush, it's kind of a citywide problem. If we're tying it to water bills, the undeveloped lots, some people just own a single lot out here. They would not be contributing in any way because it wouldn't be on their water bill. They don't get a water bill. So anyone who doesn't receive one would not pay that, but yet the benefit of removing brush from the easements and all will benefit all. So I just want to kind of keep that in mind for you. I'm very much for, of course, the brush clearing, and I know we have to try to find a way to do it, but I'm almost wondering if we could do it. It seems cleaner with raising the tax rate. Everybody knows what theirs is. We're not going to impact lower income or smaller homes if we do that as opposed to doing the yearly rate. So just wanted to throw that out to you for something to think about. Thank you.
Jim Mason, Dr. Jim Mason.
Yes, ma'am. My name is James Mason. My wife and I own a condo over here at Water's Edge, and kind of the pigtail on her discussion about the $5 assessment on the water bill. We're in a 48-unit condo, and ours is up and down, and then we only have about an acre and a third that we maintain is like a golf course. So I'm not against the assessment, but I kind of feel like we're being picked on as far as the condo, and that would also apply over here to the Cliff House. A person with a large lot in Morgan's Point will be paying $5. We're going to be paying $240 because, I mean, you're going to get an assessment of $5. Recently, just last year, when we got the new water bill assessment, our water bills were running like $700, $800, and now they're $1,800, and then this will be another $240 on top of that. So I would just ask that we kind of just look at it, and you know, I wouldn't be against having an assessment, but maybe not to multiply it times 48, since we're all kind of in a community and there really is no maintenance as far as city hauling brush or whatever. That's all
Okay.
thank you.
All right, so now we're going to go to our agenda item. We have two items on the agenda tonight. The first is to discuss and consider a memorandum resolution setting the preliminary tax rate for fiscal year 2026 annual budget, and that will be Resolution 25027. So I'm going to ask our city manager to say a few words about it before we decide to make a motion.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council, I just want to provide some information, kind of bring it all under one roof so everybody can understand what's before you tonight. The current total tax value for the city of Morgan's Point right now is $591,160,887, so $5.9 million. The current rate is 0.6253, which would be if we kept the same rate in which the budget was built on, the 6253, the maintenance and operation would be 60 cents, just a little bit over 0.6013 of that. And then interest and sinking will be 0.24024, so basically 2.5 cents. Right now, if you remember back last year or this current fiscal year that we're in, but during the prep time, we knew that the debt was going to fall off. We had about $454,000 worth of debt, and we were going to do away with about $300 and some odd thousand dollars. That was going to, I think it was $312,000. That was going to drop off, leaving about $142,090 annually that we pay. That said, currently the debt is holding at about $1.8 million, and of course it goes down over time, but that's where we're at as of the end of this month. You got several rates before you in your packet. One would be the proposed tax rate, which is the current tax rate of 0.6253, and you have the no new revenue rate at 0.6034, the voter approval rate at 0.5738, and a de minimis rate of 0.6398. The difference between these amounts, for clarity, is if you took the current rate and let's say the council decided to go with the no new revenue rate, it would bring in about $129,465 less than the current funding. The voter approval rate would bring in $304,000 less, and the de minimis rate would actually increase $85,718. I can't talk about the budget because that's not on the agenda, but you'll hear more about that discussion about fees and stuff later. We're not allowed to do that tonight, but I want to give you the context of these rates and the amounts. The total tax rate for 25, the current rate that we're in is, like I said, 6253. The proposed is 6253, which is a 0% increase in the rate. Average home values, 292,202 for 25, the current year. I'm sorry, for 25. 26 is believed to be 283,956, which is a 2.82% decrease for the average homestead value. The tax on an average homestead, right, for 25 that we're currently in is 1,827. The new rate would be, it would actually be 1,775. So 1,775 would be about $52 less. So it'd be a 2.84% decrease on the average homestead. Overall, the total tax levy for all properties is $3.5 million, and under this would it be 3.6, and that's taking all properties, not just their average value of the homestead. And it was an increase of 4.65%. And one other thing I want to highlight is in the budget was proposed there, it's talked about the tax increase would generate, I think it was it was 131,336 in property tax. That was based off certified value. The tax appraisal district are using the latest information they have available, and they used the adjusted rate, which is 164,434 or 4.65%, that would increase this budget. So while it was what we had for the certified tax roll, they use adjusted rate because they have the benefit of the ARBs, and once things close and the refunds are made, they know exactly where they're at. So that's the difference between what was in the proposed budget as far as tax, additional tax, and the adjusted rate. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Start the discussion.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion first?
To discuss.
Okay.
Make a motion to discuss the preliminary tax rate.
Yes. And then we need a second. Okay.
So about a week ago when I read the budget, I said, some of my questions, and I don't know, and you have this, but I'll give you another one. I don't know that we can talk about the preliminary tax rate without talking about the other revenue generated in the budget, because if we decide to go with fees, which I am not in favor of, then it might change our tax rate, because if we have a balanced budget, we're bringing in X number of revenue and spending X number of expenses. So when we set this rate, it's basically setting the property taxes for our next year's budget, the revenue piece. There are other ways to get revenue. There are the admin reimbursement fees that we're getting from the enterprise funds that I think are about 280. There's some new franchise fees put in the general fund from the enterprise fund. That's about another $150,000 coming in. There's these water fees to pay for debris of about 120. And then I did the same calculation Donna did independently. And I said if we go with the de minimis rate, it will bring in $82,000. Dennis said 85. So it's in that ballpark. So when we talk about the rate and we have to talk about fees at the same time, we have to take all the revenue together. Does that make sense? Okay. So I don't know if you want to, I can't believe we're not allowed to talk about fees because it's a piece of the revenue and
Yeah.
it does impact the rate.
Well, you can always set the rate at the maximum rate that council chooses to set it, and always lower it later if you want. But the agenda is agenda, and it's something that you have the current rate that we're using. It's the same one in the budget as proposed. If you feel like it needs to be higher, you can set the higher rate. You just can't go higher later. So what you set tonight is the max you can go to. So if, let's hypothetically say the de minimis rate's what you wanted to set it at, you can have every right to do that as a council, but just know full well that that is the ceiling. So let's say you choose to adopt a lower rate, you can still do that. But if you set a lower rate, let's say you decided no new revenue rate at 0.6, 60 cents plus, well, you can't raise that later on if you change your mind. So
This is the preliminary rate.
once you set it, you can't go any higher.
Ceiling. We'll call it the ceiling preliminary rate.
Go any higher, yes.
Right. I would like to make a motion then that we set the preliminary tax rate for fiscal 2026 for the annual budget at, whatever that sheet was, at the de minimis rate of 0.6398, knowing that it's a ceiling and knowing that we have not had a budget presentation yet and we haven't had a budget workshop yet. And we need to get through that to really understand the ins and outs.
Do I have a second? No second. Okay. Do I have any other motions on the floor?
There's going to be, when you adopt the budget, you'll adopt the tax rate, the levy that you're going to assess for the year. It just cannot be any higher than what you set tonight. It can be at or below, but it can't be higher than.
I just get real concerned anytime that we talk about raising tax rate.
with the water fee of 120.
I personally think that because of the unknowns that we have right now in the budget, we don't have a completed budget. I know that you're saying that we do, that we're gonna be able to live on the budget that we're proposing, right? But we haven't even gone through, as Dorothy said, and looked at the numbers yet and made sure that everything's gonna work, right? So that's a big concern to me as well. I think it would behoove us to go with the 6253 rate, knowing that we can always lower it later on.
Wait, the 6.3,
The 6.2
6.398,
The pro, oh, the
6.398,
6398, okay,
which is
okay,
the de minimis.
okay. All right, so are you seconding Dorothy's motion?
Based upon that, yes, I would say.
Okay. Now, we're open for discussion.
The only thing that came to mind that was of concern is we're not a very popular bunch here. And I'm afraid that this will be perceived as a negative and people will think that we're raising taxes. And we're used to having firestorms and this will perpetuate it.
Agree with you. It will be perceived that way, or can be perceived that way. But you have to look at it the other way, that if we don't get enough revenue come in to cover our expenses, what we need, something's gonna have to be taken out of another department or another area of the budget to cover that. If that's what we wanna do, then so be it, right?
But we haven't gotten there
We
yet.
haven't gotten to that point.
Right.
I guess what I'm trying to say is right now is I'm not in favor of raising taxes. I pay taxes too, right? But if we have a shortfall in our tax revenue or our income, and we can't fund some of these things that need to be funded, what's the lash gonna be from the residents about not being able to finish projects because we have to take money from somewhere to finish something else that became an emergency situation?
In practical terms, I certainly agree with what you said. I just have this concern. We're trying to get past the public outcry about so many issues.
But we have to lead for the future.
Yeah.
We can't look back. I mean, we've got some issues, we've got to get through them, and some of them are financial. And part of the problem is, we don't even know where we are financially. We do not know our fund balances. There are so many unknowns in this city that I think we have to lead out of strength and not out of a fear of backlash. That's mine. I'll take the backlash.
So if we are,
So,
go ahead, Stephen.
so if you look at number 2, and I wish everybody could read what you wrote, because I think it's pretty good. It says impact to residents, and I sort of wanted to say this again, because I think people need to hear this that may be listening to this. What would the tax increase be for an average home with a net assessment of $250,000? I'm going to paraphrase. It's $36, which I understand sometimes I've been in that place where $36 seems like $1 million. I've also been the other side. So, but I think you make a pretty good point versus $60 flat tax fee to our water customers.
Many of whom are on fixed income
Right.
and have property tax exemptions for relief.
So I wonder what the real number would be. Because you think there's going to be tax revenue, like people who have different exemptions. So I wonder where the numbers would actually fall.
I use Dennis's net of exemptions to calculate these. So when that says $250,000 home, that's net of exemptions. So, because I thought that was the only fair way to see apples and apples. Yeah. Yeah, and my concern is a fee is a tax. My concern with a fee is it's a regressive flat tax that impacts the least income among us, while property tax is a progressive tax, which tends to tax at the higher income levels. So I'm really sensitive to a flat regressive tax in this city. I'm not against transaction taxes. If you want a permit, you should pay a fee for that. I'm not against, special purpose funds when you're gonna do an Airbnb. If there's a permit fee associated with that, that's a transaction fee. I have zero problem with that. It's just these flat taxes affecting our lower income and fixed income residents.
I might add one thing that you may or may not be aware of. The state of Texas has been working toward lowering property taxes for residents and mainly focused on school districts. But there is an amendment currently that's through the House that's got bipartisan support that is going to the Senate for consideration. And that is one, right now, cities of 75,000 in population or greater can raise no more than 3.5% in taxes in a given year. Cities under that number is not restricted by that. In fact, if you look at the cities of 30,000 or less, which Morgan Point's Resort qualifies, it actually allows a de minimis rate as you're discussing tonight. The reality of it is, if this bill that's got bipartisan support that goes from the House to the Senate and approved and signed by the governor, that new bill is going to have no distinction between over 75 or under 75. Everybody's going to be playing by the same rules. There may or may not be cut out for public safety, and so obviously the budget's factored that in. So that's something that we can talk about next week. But the bottom line is, all cities, if it's passed as proposed, at least the one that a lot of city managers and I'm sure county managers feel the same, it's going to restrict any increase to 1%, and that's it. And it's going to affect all cities, large and small. There'll be no more exceptions.
It'll be based on what we set this year in our taxes. So if we set them lower, we only get.
Well, it's always subject to the no new revenue, new rate, voter approval rate, things like that.
Percentage.
You can, yeah, you can always present it that way. Yes, yeah.
And this is a preliminary tax rate before we've gotten knee deep into the budget.
Right, yeah, okay. Do we want to call a vote? Not yet.
Where, if you raise the rate, they're paying property taxes whether they got water.
That's my third point. I didn't read all my points, sorry. Yeah, taxes will be generated from a broader base of property tax owners and not punitive to our lower income. Also those with undeveloped lots or just extra lots would also share in the cost of the debris cleanup. And that is a direct benefit to them.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too far in the budget process, but just for clarity, this is not an ordinance to raise the rates. These are proposal. If the budget's approved or what's not approved will be moved out. But the taxes we're talking about, the rates that you're talking about setting tonight, will help fund the general fund, and it does not mean you're going to, or how it's going to be implemented for debris removal and what have you. That is not that is part of the programs that's built into the budget. You will want, you'll modify what you want. That is your all's call. The proposed budget's there. What tonight is a set of preliminary tax rate that either is, you can go higher or lower, but just remember, whatever you're at, you're not going to go any higher that when you adopt it later on this month, and it can't be any higher, it could be at or below in the future. But I just wanted for clarification, none of this stuff, the programs and stuff like that is a choice of council. But it is something that you're not actually approving that rate. You're not any fees because it hasn't come before you for that. This is just a proposal. If you do, then we'll bring that back later on.
I'm just wondering if there's a way to make it clear. Our website doesn't do that. Somebody going to put a message on Facebook about what we decided tonight and how it's.
It's got to be on there. State law requires us to put it on our website. There has to be a notice. It's going to be in the newspaper about this big. It's going to show who voted for what because we have to take a record vote, it's not an option, where they'll say, Dorothy, what do you, and then every one of us, and that will be, or you all, it'll be recorded, and that's going to go in the paper. It's got to run for 5 days for the public hearing before it can occur. So it will go in the paper tomorrow, well, it'll be sent tomorrow, and it should show up on Saturday. And it's got to be 5 days ahead of the actual hearing. And so, yeah.
We're not alone. Many cities, if you get the emails, the 30-some emails we get each day talking about what different cities are doing, this is an issue for all cities. I listened to 2 hours of Kerrville's budget and their preliminary tax rate setting, and it was excellent. And they have some very tough issues to consider.
Yes, it,
This isn't easy.
No.
This is hard stuff here.
So I think we're ready to call a vote. I'm going to just call your name in alphabetical order, and you have to say yay. And okay, yes, I was just, the agenda item RS 25027 to set a preliminary tax rate. A motion has been made and seconded to set the de minimis rate of 0.6398. And Ellen, your vote?
Yes.
Bishop? Yes. Leonhardt? Ann Palin?
yes.
Ann Stryker? I'm still going to say no because I just can't. I just don't think it's the right way to go, but that's okay. All right, so we have set our de minimis tax rate at 0.6398. Now, the next item on our agenda is to set the date, time, and place to hold a public hearing for this meeting. Now, we do have to put it in the paper, and there has to be a time frame so that people can all see it and everything. So it has been recommended that we go ahead and set the hearing for the preliminary tax rate on September 15 at 6 p.m. right here. And does anybody want to make a motion to do that?
I'll be glad to make a motion.
Okay,
That we set the notice of public hearing on the preliminary tax rate for Monday, September 15th at 6 p.m. at the Mick and Garrett Event Center.
okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Helen seconded. All in favor? Aye. I don't think we need to have anybody opposed? No, okay. It's unanimous. All right. All right. That meets our agenda item.